Well, welcome to another session of War Trips Down Data Alley. It can get kind of rough once in a while. And it's fun when you solve these problems. It can be a little bit tough when you're in the middle of them. So uh, this popped up on a lab, and the student graciously shared their files, so I thanked them and that. And so the thing is, my experience, even working on government, when data comes in off contract and stuff like that, sometimes it doesn't land in the right spot, and then you're scratching your head trying to fix or salvage the data. And sometimes you can't. So it's nice when you figure out what went wrong or what might have happened and that sort of thing. In that, and this might help other people too. To what do I look for when this happens to me? So we have these crash data, and this is around about 0.01 degree within the center of the campus, roughly. And we're doing a search. So there was another file that came in, and maybe go right, basically, and I'll go okay, and so I'm just going to give it a big dot, but then I turn the dots off, and I'm like, okay, where are the dots? And so I'll just make them bigger. Maybe they're tiny and I can't see them. So and I'll go apply. So sometimes there's lots of things that can go wrong. I mentioned in a previous video that you can end up over in the Gulf of, I guess, is it Guinea, and by Africa. That usually means you're around the equator, probably raw lat longs being plotted on top of Web Mercator. And so then okay, well, did any data come over? Because sometimes you get this issue where like your geometry is null, so you're not sure what's going on. So I see some stuff here. Some data came in that. If I stretch this over and I look quickly, okay, those look like lat longs. Me as a human was, okay, that's lat longs. Why isn't it working? So I'll just go, well, if there seems to be a layer, can I zoom to it? So boom, I zoom to it. Well, they're there, right? And stuff, and you're like, middle of the ocean. So, oh, maybe I'm by Africa and that. But I took a closer look and said, okay, the pattern looks different in that. And so we'll just go back and I'll turn these on and we'll go zoom back. And so look at this cluster of points here and this shape, right? And then we'll go over here. And that's that cluster and that's that shape. And I'm like, okay, the data got rotated or something like that. And so I said, maybe I should go back and look at the table. So let's go back and look at the table and that. And so I will come over here. We'll open up that attribute table again. And I'll slide it across. And if I slow myself down and I look, yeah, there was a lat longs, right? In that. But when we say lat long, we're actually saying YX. And computers being computers, a lot of them are set to say the first coordinate that comes through, or ordinate, is the X. Then the next will be the Y. And then if there is a third, it'll be the Z. And some of that is hard-coded into some products, right? And in well-known text format, it is hard-coded that first number is meant to be, if we take this one row here, that first number point, that is meant to be the X that's in the spec, and the next one is meant to be a Y. This is a classic thing especially with lat long, that we cross them over because we're actually saying YX. Happens all the time. And it's something to pick up that certain projections have something called like an orientation for their axis, and that's part of the proj specification for projections. It came, I think, in around version 4 for something, that there is an axis switch where X doesn't have to be the first, and Y doesn't have to be the second, and Z doesn't have to be the third value. This helps with some projection systems out of actually South Africa, which are kind of like what we would consider rotated, like this one. So then the question would be, this shouldn't have worked. If I'm honest, there's no way this should have worked, because if this was rotated, what would happen is for your latitude, you'd break 90, right? Minus 123, you'd be way over. And so this shouldn't have worked at all. right? And so that's big. Once I found the dots, I said, oh, I think I fixed it. And then I was like, no, but this shouldn't even have happened. So, well, not so much happened, but I shouldn't even have seen dots. So maybe it's the default behavior of the software. But that's definitely, we got, I would say, good dots. They're just rotated with the X and Y's swapped. And then I said, well, where am I? Am I by Africa or not? And usually if I am, I know what's going on, but I'm rotated, so I'm kind of curious, where am I in that? And then, so I'm just going to actually use a bookmark here. It's not looking good. I'm not feeling like I'm in the right spot, but actually I'm over in the Pacific. Okay, there's Honolulu and Maui and that and the Big Island. And so you're like, oh, I didn't land over in the Atlantic Ocean. I actually landed in the Pacific this time in that. When I first saw this, I said, well, maybe the 123 is fine because it's a little shifted and off. And so I was perplexed, right? We've had another video where we land over in the Gulf here and that sort of thing. So the question was like, the gut feeling I had is like, okay, I kind of know what happened to Crisscross, but I mean, technically, I should not have even have gotten dots. And then that just really, honestly, really perplexed but interested at the same time. Like, what happened? So I get to this situation like, this shouldn't be possible, right? But if I remember back when I loaded the data, a dialog came up about projections. I just clicked OK, just happened. Yeah. But if I slowed down, I would have noticed that it was saying UTM. And then I'm like, but these are lat longs. And so if I grab the projection file, which is part of the GeoCSV file for this layer, it actually says 26910. And then things became slightly clear. We have a crossover on X and Y, but those are valid UTM coordinates, right? So for UTM zone 10, those are valid coordinates, and the computer just, okay, we can project that. Nothing's going to blow up. And that's why I landed in this new area. Now, the thing is, this is not a joke. I've had government contracts where we had, fish data land, river fish data land way out in the ocean. And so it happens all the time. And so can you fix the data is what you're after. So we have the hopes of being able to fix this if we set a different projection and uncross. But just remember, when you're doing lat long, you're really saying YX in that. And so to prove, well, then I said, well, what if I told the computer, hey, it's not lat long, it's 4326? Well, what happened then, right? So I'm going to add this one, right? And I'm going to say, okay, where is it? I don't see it in that. So I'll change the dots, maybe give it a different color in that. So we'll get that to pop up. We'll go black dot, apply. Is it big? Yeah, nice and big still. And so, well, did any data come in? And so I always check open attribute table first. Okay, it came in. It's meant to be crossed, right? But remember how I said this shouldn't have been possible, because if you believe this minus 123 is latitude, what coordinate are you going to get back? Like, you're way beyond the bounds of the projection, as they say. So do I even have the hope of zooming to this? Zoom to layer. It does zoom somewhere, but no points, right? And so this is what I thought should have happened on the last one, is if you use that minus 123 for a latitude, then you are somewhere in the software, it's going to get a number like that is not possible, either infinity or NaN, not a number. Something's going to go wrong when they try to project it. What's weird is I was able to zoom somewhere. And so then I was like, okay, not that I was going out of my mind yet, but if I come in here and take a look at the source information, up in information, I do have a bounding box, but I think this is another piece of software that's just blindly going through, finding the lowest X value and finding the lowest Y value, finding the lowest, the highest X value and the highest Y value, assuming that X is first and Y is second, and making a box for the data set done to fill in the extent. So it's just some code blindly just tearing through numbers and that sort of thing. And so I get here, but when it tried to transform the data, right, from 4326 and got that really I guess, really low latitude of -123 that it couldn't actually, I guess, transform the points at all, and they came back as null points. And it's kind of funny because if you pull out slowly, and that it might show up eventually. Oh, null island! Look at that, which should be 0, 0. This imaginary place where the equator and the central meridian basically cross. It is over by Africa, but we're further out in the ocean. Okay, and that. So eventually will show up, right? Our other points that projected were a little bit over here to the side. So this can happen where you have what we call null geometry, right? We have a row, but something went wrong in transforming the data. And so the geometry is kind of messed up. So you can have this happen when you're bringing data in from contracts or working on it, or maybe you have some legacy data. You might get it put on a project in a company where they're trying to salvage some old data off a project because it's landing in the wrong spot. So these are some things you can check to see, hey, is this possibly what happened? And then get the data landing in the right spot and then move forward. That's all for now.